And this is basically two public meetings with a non-public in between. So I'm gonna call the meeting to order and the door will stay open. This is a work session for our budget, but people are certainly welcome to come and go, ask questions. I'm not gonna open public input until the second half of the public meeting. And we'll have our non-public in between. Are there any questions before we begin? Hearing none. Mrs. Moriarty, I'll turn it right over to you.
Excellent.
Jump into the budget.
So I don't know if people want to get more comfortable, spread out a little. You've got your big binders and stuff, so make yourselves comfortable. The first thing, kind of just to do is if you open your binder, we just did print the timeline again, just as a reminder for folks. So I won't go through that, but filing periods are listed there, as well as when warrant articles and so forth need to be posted. The next page is, and this should actually be stamped draft because it hasn't been adopted yet, but this is the work that was done through the summer and fall with an updated proposed mission, purpose, vision, as well as foundational principles. I thought that would be helpful to have as you look through the budget. In terms of the next one is we do focus areas every year, as well as we've had our teaching and learning practices that are in place, our traditions that we have in place, as well as our performance goals that we have been working on. So just to give a little foundation to all that we are proposing is certainly related to those particular documents. So the best thing is probably to then turn to the budget overview. So I'm going to walk through this. This kind of summarizes the budget that we are proposing. So we are proposing a $37,295,119 budget. That is an increase of $2,015,282, or 5.71%. When we began this process, we were at almost 10%. We were close to 10%. So our work to date has brought this down to 5.71%. And that is over last year's budget, which was $35,279,837. With the teacher's contract, which is almost $459,000, that will have an increase of 1.3%. So to combine, the percent increase would be 7.01%. So do you have a question, Abe? No, okay. So in addition, there is a warrant article for field lights. So that will have a dollar amount associated with it. So that will have an impact on the overall percent being requested. There are some main drivers of our budget. Special education continues to be a major driver. You'll see that just over $900,000 of this increase can be associated with special education costs. Health and dental, we're almost at $558,000 of impact based on our increases in that area. Curriculum and development, last year we had underfunded curriculum and development. Again, we were trying to find a way to lessen the amount to be raised by taxes with the plan, and it was done to utilize fund balance to support curriculum. We had done that in part of facilities as well. So this year we've brought it up to the level that we need, as well as it includes funding for a new elementary mathematics curriculum. We've really we have plateaued in math at the elementary level, and we need to work on bringing in some new practices and new materials. And, part of that is a good reset so that we get consistency of practices. So both Mr. Hilger and Mr. Bichet are working on that. We have not selected what that is yet. That will be determined, we want to involve teachers, and some of that will be done this spring. Facilities is increased by $129,000. A big part of facilities increase is due to the fact that last year we had removed 2 custodians' salaries. Again, we weren't filling them, and we were trying to see how we could, bring forward as conservative a budget as we could. So we removed them with the idea, and bless you, we did bring for the board supported fund balance for a contracted service or custodial staff. But we really are at that position to actually fund those positions, to put them back in essence. Mr. Swanberg, you can make yourself comfortable. The reality is, we've had mixed with the contracted service, and so we really want to fill those positions. Transportation, this is really related to our contract. We'll be in year 2 of our 5-year contract. And Office of the Principal, a major driver of that, where the SROs sit, as well as our traffic details. Meredith Police Department has increased from $60 an hour to $70 an hour. So that is reflected there, as well as we needed to make up some space for the salary of the SROs. The next page, page 2, is what I'm proposing. Oh, yes.
Just because we're on this page,
Yeah.
I had a conversation yesterday with Adam Drobko
Okay.
about his warrant article to fund free meals for all.
Yeah.
And he is gonna bring that as a separate warrant article to the budget meeting.
Okay.
So that's not in here
Correct.
either, and if that were voted in, that would
Correct.
also,
That ultimately it all goes to the taxpayer, right? Even if they're different warrants,
that's right.
you add them all. If they all pass, that ultimately is what them. So that all of those drivers are $9 million.
Mary, where's the, as a percentage increase, what is the highest percentage increase on this list? I'm seeing the dollar.
Which area has
Yeah.
increased from last year to
Yeah,
what?
from last year.
I'd have to,
Okay.
I'm not sure I can answer that right off the top of my head. I'm
Like
thinking it's special ed.
Percentage wise or
Yeah,
actual dollars?
Well, we see the actual
Percentage-wise-
dollar
Percentage
increase,
wise,
yeah.
curriculum and development and school board services are probably the highest.
The increase.
Percent increase or
If
Percent,
you're
yeah.
comparing from last year
Yeah,
to this,
percent,
yeah.
straight up
Yeah.
percent.
And we'll go through that shortly.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll be looking at that shortly. Proposed staffing changes. So we are proposing a 3rd nurse that would be at Sandwich Central School. That individual would be responsible for the care of students at Sandwich Central School, as well as they would take on the health-related 504 case management. That is 18 504 plans that are medically driven. And they would be given the responsibility of school district oversight for health regulations and needs. There are updates and things that happen and change in the health field, and having somebody who could be a point person for that. To offset that, we are recommending reducing the 2 health office paraeducators. So we have one at ILES and one at the middle high school. So the nurses would be responsible for the health office by themselves. That is not atypical. I did do a little kind of a, dip sticking around, and so it is not atypical. It would be a change of how we've done things, but I think it's a change we could certainly, embrace. And having that 3rd nurse, removing those 504s from the current two nursing positions, I think does, provide a little more ability to make that successful.
When you're saying it is not atypical, you're meaning it's not uncommon?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Wasn't like an unfinished sentence.
Yeah. Yes, it is not uncommon to just have the nurse solely in the office.
I think that's wonderful.
So,
And presumably those the administrative tasks that this 3rd nurse will take on have been tasks that the paraprofessional or the nurse.
actually, the current nurses have been responsible for the 504 plans, which is, it is another responsibility. And I think just providing a little space by putting that in the hands of the 3rd nurse,
Mhm.
I think, hopefully will provide a little relief. I think people will have to change their workflow, but I think it is very, very doable. And again, I think it's really important, we have openings in special education, and so my conversation with people with any of the reductions related to paraeducators is we can shift people to special education. So it's not as though somebody would be losing a job opportunity. For a shift, so this year we did not fill, so we had budgeted in the 25-26 school year, the current school year, a teacher that was going to do the additional 8th grade section of humanities at the middle high school. We were able to not fill that position by being able to shift a high school social studies teacher down for this year. She'll be shifting back up next year. That class will be shifting to 9th grade, so we don't need those extra sections. But we do have at ILES, I think, a need to just smooth out some class sizes and shifting that position down to ILES. In addition to support that, because we recognize, we do have a budget that is increasing, but an additional offset is this year we put 2 regular education paraeducators into grade 5. We have 2 sections of grade 5 at ILES. We put a classroom para in each room. They were not budgeted. We were able to, fill that with some changes within this year's budget. We would not propose continuing with those positions, as well as reducing the elementary library paraeducator. So the elementary library paraeducator, our hope would be that we might be able to connect with some volunteers. So a big part of that is I call it restocking. I'm not sure if that's the library word, but it is restocking the books. And, we do have we have parents and community members who I think would be very willing to assist with that. It is a different change in the workflow, but it is also not uncommon not to have that position at an elementary level. We do have that position at the middle high, but it is different. There's a lot of supervision at the middle high school. So you have students who, potentially, are coming into the library to do some work. The librarian might be working with the class, but, they might have time that, they're not scheduled. And so you're supervising them, or you may have time at the end of the day that kids have a break between the end of school and the start of athletics or theater. And so they're in the library. So supervision plays a different role at the middle high school. And so we are proposing to keep that.
My son is in the library page program at SES. And so they do the restocking of, so the kids, it's like a privilege to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So that's another creative way.
Yeah, that's a super way.
Little Tom Sawyer at work there.
They're unionizing.
They come away learning the Dewey Decimal System. So this is actually, I'm just putting it here because it wasn't budgeted, but last year at the end of the year, the board did support an additional special education teacher at Sandwich Central School. And to offset that, these were positions that were budgeted, so we're comparing budget to budget. Reducing a special education para and a regular education para at Sandwich Central School. That seems to be working well. They seem very pleased with how things are going. So this is something that the board has already supported, but when you compare budget to budget, it's a change. Custodians, again, adding back the 2 custodians. And again, that's because we had carried forward funds at the end of the year for contracting a service or hiring, but we really are, and that was to provide relief in last year's budget. And so we would be looking to add those back. The board has asked for natural attrition points for us to do an analysis of each of those points of time. We recognize that we have declining enrollment and, needing to look at those positions. One of those positions is an English teacher at the middle high school. I am proposing that we maintain that position. The reality is our current 8th grade class will be rising up to 9th grade next year. They are a class with our highest needs in the district. Between special education and 504, that's about 40% of the class. We are going to need to be able to differentiate our English offerings to really meet their needs. And some of that is just needing more time. So like a ninth grade English class may need to, right now, that is one semester because it's a block schedule, is a credit. We do offer the opportunity to take that as a full year course to get to be able to complete the English curriculum for ninth grade. So we need some flexibility of staffing to be able to do that. So I would request the board consider maintaining that position. The other one is at SES, and that would be if we did not replace the teacher, we would lose having middle multi-age class for grade 2 and 3. So that one would be a bit of a challenge. So any questions on those proposed staff changes? Go on. So health and dental, 11.8% for health insurance, 4.4% increase for dental. So that's an increase from last year of overall 9.18%. So that is, we're talking almost $558,000, over $500,000.
And that's like a contract, that's just, we're obligated to that no matter what.
Yeah. I think at this, yes. We are doing the health study, which again will come back in late March to look at different options that are available. So one of those, health trust, school care, and what it would mean to be, is it self-funded?
Direct.
Yeah, so there's no premium, this is the contract, there's no premium increase to anybody, we just pay for the
Right.
offset, it is what it is.
Yeah, and it's within the contract, there are plans, like within the collective bargaining
Yeah.
agreements, so those were kind of held to.
That's
That makes
part of the
sense.
reason we kicked the can down
Yeah.
the road,
Yeah.
because we didn't have it, and it does play such a large role in the overall cost of all our employees. And just as an FYI, Jim, I just did the math right quick, going back to page 1, if you just take the two big things that are out of our control, health insurance and special ed, that's 60%
Mhm.
of the teacher and operating budget combined.
I mean, just this is 25% of the increase in cost, right? Just this one item alone is 25% of the increase in budget. If I'm reading that right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
So professional salaries, so throughout the budget, salary increases for teachers are not included because that is a separate warrant article, which will be part of, the collective bargaining agreement between the board and the ILEA. But you'll see some increases and decreases. Those are because we have some staff that have had track changes, so veteran staff who may have earned more graduate credits, so they qualify for a track change, or we have a new staff member who was placed differently on the salary schedule from the person that left. So those are going to be some slight changes you'll see. Administrative non-bargaining salaries, proposing those at 4%. The rationale for that is when you look at the average increase for the teacher's contracts, and when you look at salary increase plus step, that's 4.29%. And for year 3, the paraeducator contract, their average increase is 6.69%.
Which they're in the final year of their contract.
Correct,
This year.
correct. Regular education, the main driver
And
there.
I'm sorry, Mary, just for Jim and Abe, and I think Ed's benefit, when we redid the para contract, we jumped things significantly. We added a health benefit, and we also added significantly to wages across the board, and we also added more opportunities for, what do you call it, when you get a certification?
So different, like a differential, salary differential.
So you get an extra $2 an hour if you get the BD/CD designation, whatever it is. That's what.
So a reward for continuing your professional growth.
And needed professional development. We really, I think, that these were paraeducators working with special ed kids who were the most challenging, and they, there wasn't room in that contract for the training that, would help them become better at that job, so
And it-
we
and it-
got something in exchange for
It
that.
was also at a time when we were desperately short.
Yeah.
It was true everywhere, short of paraprofessionals. Or
Especially
paraeducators.
special ed paraprofessionals, right?
And our contract was not competitive with the region. We've seen that over time, that's been something we've been working on over several contracts.
That's why we did what we did.
So regular ed, primarily it's health and dental, the increase, special education. Really the main driver here is out of district placements, so.
I just have a question on
Yeah.
regular education. So I'm just looking through this and just highlight one. So regular education increased 1%. The only driver is health and dental. Okay. School board services increased 28.66%, right? It's small, it's not a big amount, but that optic to me doesn't seem like it matches up, right? So maybe we should think about that, right? Like regular education, we're only spending 1% on regular education increase. We're spending 11% on special education. We're spending
So what-
29% on school board services. We're paying the Meredith Police Department $70 an hour to do traffic. I think that's a kind of a red flag.
Well, I think that a big part of that is because in regular ed is where a number of your salaries are for teachers.
Yeah.
And that's pulled out.
Okay.
So,
So the only driver for enhanced regular education is health and dental
Yes.
increases? So we're putting no money into regular education on salaries increase.
I think you'll find, I think there's a lot there. Some of what is not there, that it's in the curriculum, which again is a big support for our education, is where the new math programming and curriculums, materials and professional learning is. So that investment is just under the curriculum development lines.
Okay.
So.
I mean, I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
just think maybe like if we're doing this as like some people may look at that as a thing of
Yeah.
under more understanding or more clarity.
The problem is the dollars versus the
Yeah.
percentages,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the school board services are a fraction of
Yeah,
Yeah.
amount.
and I think it's all explainable.
Yeah.
Right, so just
Mhm.
to be clear, maybe we'll get deep into the numbers here, the regular education, we're doing this just like that.
That's like everything that's in here, I guess, is regular education minus.
So, well, no, they're different account sections.
Can you speak?
So what is,
Just
yeah,
looking
what
at
is
the
regular
paragraph,
education
I'm just looking
actually?
at the paragraph on page 3,
Yes.
where it says 112,060 increased 1.03%. And then the next line below it says major driver of this is health and dental.
Yep,
which
so there's some
increased by
decrease.
a bigger number. So I think that is like, just want to
So
be
I-
clear that this is, you just said that we see some salaries going down because people change positions and so on and so forth. Does that account for?
So I think if
That's
people
right.
could be patient, we're gonna get to those specific lines.
Okay.
So I think if, right now, the purpose of this overview gives kind of a global, kind of high level. We actually are gonna go line by line, okay? So people can just bear with me a bit. So special education, a big driver of that is out of district placements. In addition, we did have a decrease in other professional services. However, you'll see that those funds primarily have shifted to, from an internal program, so money that we were using internally, to an out-of-district programming. So where you would see that change is rather than a contracted service, it's moving to tuition. Okay. Extended school year, very slight. Extended school year is 12 days in the summer, and that's for students who qualify through their IEP, their individual education plan, that they need to participate. And the purpose of extended school year is so that they can maintain. It's really, there is a summer drop for students who have special education needs often, or for students in high poverty. So the goal of summer learning really is to maintain. There was a study done at one point that students who come from more affluent homes actually gain over the summer because of some of the experiences. But at any rate, the other piece of that is there's a small decrease in other professional services. We share our bilingual teacher or ESOL teacher, English speaker of other languages. Teacher, she's an Interlinks employee, but Ashlyn purchases time from her. We look at every time we do the budget and throughout the year, where the students shift, because it is an area that can have some fluctuation. Right now, we have 9 students receiving those services. Vocational has increased. This is due to tuition for students. We currently have 34 students at the UIT and 6 at the Winnisquam Career Center, which used to be the agricultural program. Athletics has an increase of just over $32,000. A portion of that is the administrator's salary. You'll notice we'll have an increase. The athletic director is at the point of longevity, which is part of the administrative benefits overview, that they get a 2% for longevity. And then if the board supports the 4% salary increase, that is creating an increase in that area. We also have 2 additional coaches we're budgeting for, because we've entered the point where we now pick up the cost for indoor track coaches. They were initially self-funded. Other professional services have increased, again, related to the police detail. We do have, when we have athletic events and so forth, we have police on campus. And supplies have an increase of about $3,500. I think I heard the cost of a football is about $98. So things are not getting cheaper. Summer school, we have an increase. We're actually asking for 4 additional days. So again, this supports regular education. So kind of like a pilot to see if doing a little running start for kindergarten or a summer camp for kindergarten might help some students who during the summer process, we're able to see might benefit from just a little opportunity to come in a little in advance and start to get some of those routines down before day 1.
This is preschoolers who will be coming in as
Yes.
kindergartners?
Yes, yes. So just starting with 4 days, if that's successful in the future, we may ask for an additional week or so. Guidance services, really, again, we've got the salary increases are for non-bargaining or track changes, health insurance changes that people have made. And I think it's a good reminder for the board. In other professional services, you'll see those funds that they support the licensed mental health professionals that the board has been very supportive of. We have 36 students who are being served at this time. We have a waiting list of 17 students. We do have a process that we try to move through so that we can try to move students off the waiting list. But it is difficult. There's seems to be always more need than we have availability. Health services, again, I discussed that. This is really related to shifting to a 3rd school district nurse. Psychology, speech, physical, and occupational therapy. Just a reminder, we have 2 full-time school psychologists. The school district pays for 1. The IDA grant pays for 1 FTE, and the IDA grant pays for 1 FTE. So both of them, so 1 psychologist is half district funded, half IDA funded. The other one is half district funded, half IDA. The reason for that is IDA funds is really for the special education portion of their job. The half funded by the district gives us a lot of flexibility then of how we use them to support non-special education students. Technology, really, again, health insurance here. Electronic information access is level funded, and we're going to go through that. But our hope is that you will consider adding $40,000 for through fund balance. Again, electronic information helps support regular education and special education and all of our systems. Technology leases are down and replacement equipment has increased. Curriculum development, you notice, has increased. This is, again, as I said earlier, we had underfunded it last year to try to just help the bottom line. We are, bringing it up to more of the level we need. However, we too would request some additional fund balance. This provides a lot of time outside of the contract for our teachers to participate in professional learning, which again hits all regular ed, special ed teachers, paraeducators. In the summer, we offer a very complex called competency camp. It's a lot of intensive professional learning. We will have a new math program that we need to bring people up to speed on, as well as ILES has been working on behavioral systems. So we have been working with Polly Bath. She is a specialist in the field of behavior, and we want to be able to continue that work into next year. Library media has increased. Again, we have a decrease there, but there is an increase overall, and that's primarily driven by health and dental, school board services. So our property and liability has increased. Advertising, we're looking at what we've spent, trying to bring that up. Printing and binding, the same thing, and supplies, trying to look at what we actually have spent in those areas. Additionally, electronic information has increased, so that's for the diligence board docs. Audit and legal, audit services have increased. Legal, we are suggesting to level fund, but when you look at the actuals, our recommendation would be to carry forward some funds. It's hard to know from year to year how much we may need, but it does seem to be an area that we are spending more than we budget.
Mary, is that, we've got two big contracts, both of the contracts for support. Is that logical to level fund with those two?
You know, again, I think we felt like when we look at where we are in the budget, that there should be fund balance. There was also funds carried forward last June for the teacher contract.
Oh, right,
So there's
and
some,
then we put it
yeah.
on hold.
yeah, so that's still available. Office of the Principal, again, we have salaries at 4%, and some associated costs, health and dental. Again, the school resource officer, we needed to provide some funding to fully cover those salaries. And then below you see the change from $60 an hour to $70. The other thing that we did reduce here, and if needed, would be requesting through fund balance. We want to do an analysis of the north entrance. So we have a police detail at the north entrance, which our bus is really during the beginning and end of the school day. It's the buses only, but so we'd like to have first student bring up they have a safety person, and also have conversations with the police chief. You know, he and I have spoken, but you know, it's really kind of getting it from the perspective of the bus drivers. So I think doing an analysis of that would be helpful for us to determine if that's a place we could have some cost savings. That would be great. Again, as we look at where we are in the budget, we think pushing that to fund balance if we need to say, you know, what we do need to add or to keep that as it currently is.
What is our requirement for having police? Like if we just said we didn't want them, could we just?
I
is it a
think,
town requirement? Is it a
well,
school
it's not a
requirement?
requirement. I think it was one that came in long ago because you know, just the difficulty of school traffic is a lot and 25 is a highway.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that it is, it's a preventive measure.
Okay.
You
And
know,
what you're talking about, Mary, is there's currently two. right?
yes.
And you're saying possibly one, just.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
one by Laker Lane, so
Yeah, yeah.
Laker Lane's the,
Who's always chief?
right.
That's
Chief Harper's always in the
Always-
north.
he's
Always
in
north,
that's
north.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
He's
his,
the one that you're
right,
giving
so-
day off.
so he has a lot of perspective,
Yeah.
he's worked it a lot.
That would make sense to eliminate that for me, for certain. I
Yeah.
drive there every single day. so
Yeah, I
people-
would like to have the bus company do their analysis just to make sure, it's the left-hand turn out of there can be a bit of a challenge. So,
Okay.
but we feel like we're in a position that we could at this, I think for the budget process, removing the 20,000 at this stage makes sense.
Yeah.
Secretarial, so we have long been awaiting to take the receptionist position at the middle high, and having her be ready to be full year. Has had a family and has wanted to stick with the school schedule. It will make us have parity with ILES, and it's just, you know, there's a lot of things that happen in the summer months, and having that extra bandwidth will be important. The other part of impacting that particular line is we do have some current staff who have changed subscriptions. So what might be a subscription change? I might have had a single plan and then I get married, or I'm, now have a family. So those are things that can impact subscription. Auditorium is just based on a 3-year average. So facilities, again, the big part there is adding the 2 additional custodial positions back. We actually, based on a review, have been able to reduce pellet fuel by 20 and supplies by 25,000 based on our current needs and pricing. Building and equipment.
So, I'm sorry, Mary, just while I'm thinking of it, have we been able to run the boilers long enough for Brian to get an idea if we're realizing any savings on fuel?
I did ask him that recently. He didn't feel like he had enough information yet.
Thank you.
We
We would be very interested. in
Yeah.
that.
I've told him that as soon as we can, we'd like that
Yep.
information. Building and equipment. So very slight increase, because we are actually suggesting that a significant amount of building and equipment be put into fund balance. So the roof coating of 45,000, flooring replacements, ceiling and light replacements, some more flooring replacements, and the Humiston parking lot. The Humiston parking lot
Yet
is,
again.
I know, that is always at the bottom of my list. But
Why don't we approach Lakes Region Planning and say we'll give them a 5-year lease for free if they replace the parking lot?
That's not a very good deal for them.
How about a 7-year lease? I don't know.
we're certainly willing to explore those.
Because Humiston's never gonna get done.
I know.
It's
I
like-
know. I tell people we're good Yankees over here, It's, it's difficult when we have needs, that are more directly related to our students, right? So that's, again, this is the board's budget. We're just bringing forward something for your consideration. So our suggestion is you consider end of year fund balance. And we've spent time looking at what we think the fund balance is going to come in at, and feel like those are reasonable risks to take. Care of grounds, primarily, so we have a drainage issue going on by the primary wing playground area. So we put a ramp and all those rocks, and it's not draining the way that we need it to. So we've got to look at how we might fix that drainage issue. And then we have a reduction because of some sidewalk work that was done last summer.
I'm just curious, what is it pooling a ton? Like, how big is what's happening?
I know it's a big concern for Brian. I don't know that I can get into the,
Okay.
Next week he can maybe bring a picture.
Like a safety issue for like the kids or?
It's not, I don't think has not said it's a safety issue. We can certainly have more detail next week, if there's pooling water, then it might freeze. So, but it definitely is something that is not working the way that he had expected it to work. And it's our design. Like, I think it's not as though somebody didn't do work correctly and we need to go and ask them to fix it. It's the way that we designed it is just not working as intended. Transportation, so we've got our increase due to year 2 of our contract. That was expected. Special education is significantly up. This is, again, it corresponds with out-of-district placements.
Almost 50%. That's-
Vocational transportation has increased. For 24-25, we got a very nice grant from the Department of Education. They have just reopened that grant. We asked Trish Temporino to apply it on our behalf, and so that was submitted, I think, yesterday. I don't know if we'll receive it. I think you may have, the fact that you got it before may make you less, lower on the list, but we are trying for that. Athletic transportation has an increase, co-curricular decreased a bit. Homeless transportation, we are keeping it at $1 and suggesting that between, with end of year fund balance, that maybe some transportation funds could be put forward to support transportation needs. I think I'd keep it global, but in our mind, we'd be looking at special education and homeless. Recognition of service. So this is down. We have 2 people eligible. That's less than what we had last year. I think we had 3 last year. Retired employee expenses decreased, and that is because of the plan offerings that Health Trust has available at this stage. And then there are the costs that get distributed, unemployment and workers' compensation.
Mary, may I ask a question about the homeless transportation? Is there no one using that?
No, we are, but
Okay.
we have been able to absorb that in the budget because it's such an unknown. That's the challenge.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't
We
sure if you
absolutely, I
were.
think we have, within here, we'll talk about how many students are homeless. Expendable trust balances are just there, just for your consideration. You know, one thing that we didn't do, but the board could consider, this has been done in the past, the health reserve has not been used. But in the past, we have suggested reduce health insurance by that amount. If needed, then the board would remove that from the reserve. Again, right, budgets fluctuate. So that is something you might want to consider if you wanted to reduce this budget further. There might be $86,000 there to do that. The next page is just the overview for the collective bargaining agreement. So that's just a reminder of what that is and the year one salary schedule for that. So we move into the enrollment and financial data. The very first sheet is just to give you a sense of what contracted services and special education look like. So it gives you a sense of what that will make up that number. And again, we're going to go line by line, so you have a chance to see where that falls. I won't read through that, but I just want you to be aware that, that gives you a sense, when we look at, that's $1.3 million in services. I can pause for a minute if you'd like.
I have some questions on the line by line, but I'll let you go through it.
Okay.
Before I ask.
So enrollment, you'll see page 2 of this section. This is a dipstick that we take on October 1st. On October 1st, we had 896 students. And again, that's on that date. 186 students do receive special education services. The next page, page 3, is just the breakdown of how many students by building. So we do, even though we have 3 buildings, we have 4 schools because the middle school and the high school are seen as 2 different schools from the Department of Ed's standpoint. It has to do with assessment. The middle school assessment is different than the high school assessment, as well as then when we have to break out costs. So we have account numbers for middle school level things and account numbers for high school. The page 4 just gives you a sense by grade level of how many students we currently are and how many we're projecting for next year. This also gives you some data. So it has 186 students with special education needs. It is 84 students with 504s, and English speakers of other languages 9. Homeless right now is 14, and vocational students is the 40.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're using the transportation.
Correct.
services.
Yes. Right.
Why is the decrease in the high school as the largest? Is that just because of a class graduating and then smaller classes coming in behind? It's just 14 students.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be just the roll up of another class, probably one with a higher number going out and a lower number
And our
coming in.
projected K coming in.
Yeah.
Or
Or correct for the elementary level. Yep.
Right.
But at the high
Right,
school
the
level,
high school,
it
just-
would be the current 6th grade class moving up to 7th grade, and then the current seniors exited.
Thank you.
Well, in the 8th grade coming into 9th, and isn't the 8th grade a big
It
class?
is
Or is
a big
that
class.
just a class
is.
with a lot?
No, it's a big class
Big
class
class
with high
too.
needs, yeah. Which is why you see a drop in the middle school number. So the next page is our free and reduced lunch information. So we have ILES is 33%. And again, the middle school is separated at 29. Sandwich is 9%, and the high school is at 21%. So that is by school. The next page is by district compared to the state average. So our district is at about 26%, the state is at about 23%. So we're running higher than the state. Page 7 provides you with a breakdown of how our budget is distributed. So the majority of our budget, salaries and benefits, that's 70%, is people. Contracted services, which is another 22%, is people primarily. So really, you're looking at about 92% of the budget is about people. A very small amount is books, supplies, and equipment, some other expenses, and then utilities. So this is just something we've done year to year so that people can see what primarily makes up our budget. The next page, page 8, I think is just a helpful, another perspective. So when you look at salaries and benefits, so falling under that section, all of those have increased by 3.71%. So that would put your special education salaries, your regular education salaries, it's all your salaries together, administrative salaries. Contracted services, so all our contracted services have increased by 14%. And again, a major part of that is the tuition. So those are for out-of-district placements.
Mary, quick question for everybody's benefit. So you've mentioned we use Bill White. We lean on Bill White heavily for our contracted services. And somebody made a comment, one of you made a comment about Mr. White is getting to the point where he may be retiring soon. So if that business went away, are there other contractors?
So we have
out there?
started to, Mrs. Holiday, the idea of all the eggs in one basket, not a good thing. There have been some other services or contracted services providers that have, I guess, are more likely to service in our area than they were. And so we have been tapping into those. So we've been trying to diversify where we're getting some of our services.
And are there enough of them so you could actually have a conversation regarding costs and maybe we could get a better deal?
I think that's a tough thing to do. They're pretty fixed with what they, this is what we offer. I do think the charter school that during the regular session of the board that the board will be considering if that's a warrant article you want to move forward with. I think there's an opportunity there. One, you would be hiring staff, the charter school would hire. Because it's not unionized, you have a little opportunity to do things with salary a little differently. So I think you can become attractive. And it might help to have some economy of scale because you have a number of students with needs in one place and you can better utilize the professionals to do the work.
And the transportation would be much less.
Yeah, I think that the transportation would be it would still be something that would need to be figured out, but I do think it would be a savings.
But just, I want to go back to Bill White a little bit. If his company reorganizes and no longer exists, presumably those staff would still be special ed qualified teachers in the state of New Hampshire, and that they would aggregate themselves in some other arrangement and be available to us somehow.
Certainly a possibility.
I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean, when we say he's going to retire, I mean, the
Yeah.
contracted services are through his organization, which has been around forever. And I don't want to diminish how disruptive that would be. But presumably then there would be people available to contract through other.
Right. I think the reality is there's no clear plan that he plans to sell his business. That's the piece that,
Would be nice.
and I want to be cautious because I don't want to get into poor Mr. White's. I think he is also very selective of who he would sell to because it is, near and dear to who, but I do think that, there's a concentration of a skill set that probably would go somewhere, right? Whether it would be one of these other providers we've started working with or somebody else would start up. I think there's a likelihood of that. But I think that's I think some of, I think what we're trying to do is diversify so we don't have all of our eggs in the one basket.
I was kind of looking at specifically back to page 1, right? So I was wondering, just when you look at some of the big ticket items, like I would look at under the district, for example, like halfway down, emotional and behavioral disorder consultation, 780 hours at $155 an hour for $121,000. Like, what is that mean?
So that is somebody.
And how do we quantify that? How do we decide who gets, what's the service, how many kids are we servicing?
So Lisa Holiday is actually, she will be here for non-public this evening, talking
Okay.
specifically about some programs. And I think, next week she could also go a little bit more into detail. It truly is reviewing students, their IEPs and what they need. And that's how coming up with those hours.
Okay, yeah, so Bill White's team is doing that today, and I'm just thinking outside the box as we move
Yeah.
forward. We're paying someone $155 an hour to do 780 hours worth of work. So does that make sense? And then we're also spending, $90,000 on pediatric physical therapy. Just more details of kind of like what that means. I don't know what it means, so I'm just trying to understand. Is that one person role? Is that 2,000 hours a year? Is that-
Yeah, so we can plan for Lisa to actually give greater detail on this page next Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
So on page 8, so again, you're just seeing it, books, supplies, and equipment, overall has an increase of 5.5%. And electricity is down, some other debt services and federal funds and so forth is down slightly. So the overall is 5.7. Special education cost, the next page is a bar graph, and it reflects where we are, ever increasing is where we are at the moment. And I think you'll see that like transportation has gotten wider, the deeper blue has gotten wider, the other pieces have remained fairly consistent.
Mary, what would be nice to have with that bar graph is the number of students in each
Sure.
year.
Yeah, we can do that.
That represents.
The next page is just an analysis of health insurance. So it's just showing you how we got to that when you look at the various accounts. Facilities is next, just to show over time. So about 10.25% of this proposed budget is for facilities. Last year was about 10.1, and previous years, ran between almost 12 and 13%. Technology information access. So thank you, Mr. Parsons. The next page just breaks it down for you, what categories, the amount. So what we need is $232,000. What we're proposing is to level fund it at 191, almost 192, with the remainder coming from fund balance. The biggest one item chunk is systems. So that's looking at our student information system that looks at related to our security systems. It's School Pass, which we utilize in terms of checking people in and out. So all those kind of system pieces that we utilize to keep things running. The other sections like educational applications is 13.5%. Assessment is almost 9%. Some academic components are close to 12%. So just a breakdown of that. We used to buy books. Now we buy applications or academic tools. So the next part is getting then into the master budget. So this is the line item detail. This might be helpful. I call these my notes that I will pass along. Oh, thank you. So this can get you into what our deeper weeds if you would like. So I'm not going to read all these deep weeds. But regular education, it shows you some of the, you know, what we spend, co-curricular and athletics when we get to those parts. So again, when you look at teacher salaries, we don't have any salaries increases in the budget because those are the separate warrant articles. So you need to consider that that's, you know, over $400,000 in addition there. So tutor, like if you look at tutor salaries, line 5, and if you look at the handout that I just gave you, that gives you a sense. So like we have a principal advisory council at the middle high, that's $27,500. Chemical hygiene officer, that's the person who makes sure all of our chemicals for science are properly stored and disposed of. Leadership stipends, they do academic integrity, office hours, and then support, academic support outside of school hours, so tutoring for students who may need tutoring beyond the school day. So that just gives you a sense of what makes up that line. I think what I will do is, why don't I pause, and if you have questions on a particular line, we can go to that particular.
Again, line 64, tuition non-public, it's decreased.
Okay.
It looks like it's decreased, or no, last year, increase, it was proposed, it increased. That just goes back to that general, like, special ed, that's
Yep.
Bill White services and all those things.
So
right?
that is actually an out-of-district placement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any questions on regular ed on page 1? Let me just,
Sorry, I.
Yeah.
Mary, line 14, employee retirement
yes.
decrease. And maybe I just don't understand how
So
paychecks are allocated and so on and so forth, but how is that, are we, the way I understand it, is folks elect how much to contribute to their own retirement?
no, so we're part of the New Hampshire retirement system.
Okay.
So employees include your paraeducators, principals fall in, no, superintendents fall in employee. Teachers fall into teacher retirement. And retirement is what right now, Ashley?
12 point, it's around 12%.
We'll get you the exact,
Yes.
but it is a fixed amount that, as part of the retirement system, that employees have one amount and teachers have a different amount.
And there's also a reduction because we did reduce a regular education paraeducator. So that's why there is a reduction.
Okay, so I'll use the word mandatory, but the statutory, I guess, requirement to contribute to the state retirement fund is reduced because we reduced that.
The position, correct?
Got
Yes.
So that was for Sandwich, a regular para reduced. Yeah. Good. Any other questions on regular ed?
I love the consumables. I have this vision of these programs sitting down in front of them. Math consumables, social studies consumables.
On
Erasers.
line 36, is $1. So this is for open enrollment. So we are required by law now to just put a spot for open enrollment. So that's where we put it, and we put $1 in it. Page 2, so that is special education. So I will give you a minute to look through that.
And some board members who might not be familiar with municipal accounting wonder why you leave $1. It's a thing where if it was 0, you could never put any money into it, but if you have $1, it keeps it active. And so that's why in municipal budgets, you'll see $1 and
Is that
not
like-
0.
Is that like keeping like $4 in your checking account?
Something like that.
Any questions on special education?
Sorry, is it okay to go back? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
of course, don't be sorry.
I'm slow.
No,
Just repairs and maintenance service, the driver of that it's not that much, I guess. What's sort of leading to that increase?
Okay.
Line 19,
line 19, let me see.
yeah.
Get that up.
Is it just aging equipment, new equipment?
My suspicion is it's related to a laminator, but if you give me one moment.
No,
let
then
me-
don't spend time on, sorry.
No, no, no,
It looks like a big percentage for the sport.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's just give me a second to find my greater detail here. So ILES, replacement equipment. So ILES, oh, did I put it in, I might have done replacement equipment here. I think I did. If you go to that sheet, page,
Yeah, is it in here? Your notes?
so it's a saxophone for $199, 4 chairs, $1,200,
Great.
microscopes, yeah.
Thank you, sorry, yeah.
No laminators?
Apparently no laminator, but it usually is a laminator. My years, I have never laminated because I'm terrified of it. I've never laminated.
No, it's really fun, you should try it.
I'm afraid of it. I would be the one to break the machine, I know it. Anything
I
on
was just
regular?
still wondering, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's a net 10.8%, but I just saw there's a big increase in tuition non-public,
Yep.
tuition public, and then a decrease by 20% in contracted services.
Correct.
Is that kind of just like
So
an accounting thing, or is that like a service?
So it's
provider?
taking what we would have funded for an internal program
Yeah.
that maybe is not meeting the student's need and reducing those contracted services because now we're paying out of district.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so student had an internal program,
Not
just
working.
not working. Funding shifts to out of district
Yeah.
placement.
Makes sense, okay.
Anything on special education? Next page, again, extended school year and bilingual. But I'll give you a moment to pause there.
Is there any change in programming with the retirement, just like the negative percentage in the retirement and the salaries and stuff, is that gonna impact?
No, it's picked, so the other half of that will be picked up by Ashland.
Gotcha.
Moving on to page 4. So special ed assigned coach supports students who might need support to participate in a co-curricular or athletic program and need some additional help, or maybe an internship. Vocational tuition, again, is driven by what we anticipate needing for next year. And then co-curriculars, I do have, that is broken out on this notes page.
Now, I kind of want to go backwards for a second, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm kind of percolating. The line for other LEA, what's the term for that? My brain is so tired right now.
Local education agencies.
No,
So are you on special education? I'm sorry.
the new line that we're.
Oh, open enrollment.
Thank you, that's it. I've heard of other regions in the state kind of voting on cooperatively going into open enrollment. Do we have any rumbling like that in our region?
So, so some places are going to put a warrant to be open enrollment with, some are looking at 0 to come in and 0 to go out as a strategy.
Interesting, okay.
I do believe that a neighboring district is going to put an open enrollment warrant on, and maybe do something like 1% can come in or something to that effect. Two different attorneys had two different perspectives. One attorney, do the 0-0 as your potential of limiting your risk. Another attorney felt that if it was challenged, that might not show a good faith effort. So if you are going to do it, maybe put like a 1% or something to that effect. I don't know what the legislation right now is doing, but last year there was an attempt to make the whole state open enrollment. I think there's a lot unknown. I do have a Lakes Region meeting tomorrow, and last time we met, it was actually in November, that I asked who, to get a sense. Many were a no, but then I did just recently learn that one, I think, is going to be a yes to put it on. So,
And it is an unknown because we don't know what parents ultimately may choose
Yeah.
to
right.
attempt or something
Yeah.
like that, but, okay.
I think that I do believe there's a district in the state that has 0-0 right now, and I think that's being challenged because I do believe with another district, they may have received a bill. The one district in the state has now opened a 7-12 online school. So I think when it's physical and people have to actually get there, that's a little different than the potential costs that might come with online school.
Yeah.
So I think that there's some risk there.
So it's a change developing.
It is. It's disruptive in a way that's hard to plan for.
Right.
I think that's the piece.
Okay, thank you.
So co-curriculars, any questions on co-curriculars?
That's athletics and everything?
Co-curriculars is separate, and then athletics is its own
Next page, yeah.
on page 5, and then I did try to tease that out for folks on that handout.
Harry, what's the two lines, 150 and 151 for the athletic director salary? What is the?
Oh, I think it's because at one point we had, the athletic director was a teacher / athletic director, and then we moved to a full administrative, so I think that has just held on as a line. Is that correct? Yes, yeah. So it's really defunct. Yeah. And probably delete it. At least for print.
What about line 162, 163, where it says employee retirement, teacher retirement, is that under the athletic?
So that relates to the coaches as well as the athletic director.
Okay,
So
if you're a
If you're a
teacher and a
coach-
coach.
we're required to pay the New Hampshire retirement portion.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then I guess added equipment versus replacement equipment is just kind of a move.
Yeah, so added is something new. Replacement is something that's we
Yeah.
had and we need to replace.
So we're not replacing anything this year, we're just we are. We've completely deleted replacement equipment, we're just getting new.
Yeah, so
We
have
no
no
added.
added. Oh.
There's no added, and
Yeah.
we've moved it to replacement.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, that's it. That's it,
Correct,
Yeah,
yeah.
gotcha.
We were really replacing things, not
Okay.
adding them. When we looked at that.
Yeah, so that represents weight room replacement equipment, football guardian helmets, uniform replacement every 4 years, football helmets.
I guess I would just say, I don't know, I was walking through our locker rooms a couple weeks ago and seeing that we have almost a $700,000 athletic budget. Those two things aren't driving with me today.
And
Okay.
again, it goes back to really needing to do a building project.
Yeah,
As we replace equipment, what is done? Are we able to recapture any cost by selling used equipment? Like how?
Yeah, we'll have to ask, I don't have an answer for that. I don't know if we,
It's possible to
Yeah.
break a weight plate so that it's not usable anymore?
Yeah.
And most recently, we've replaced some pretty expensive treadmills and things.
Yeah.
We had a surge at the school, and that was a $5,000 piece of equipment that we had to replace. So we've had a few things happen like that. But really they're at end of life when we replace them, and not really
But we'll have,
recycled.
we'll
But
have
we
the
can ask Sarah if she's had it.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it Depends obviously on what, a treadmill is a great example of something
Yes.
that just goes defunct, but
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
a
Most recently, that's my example, just because it happened last year.
a squat rack gets a little rusty and people replace it, and you're like, what is it?
I guess we can ask Sarah too, just like, so our athletic trainer is $66,000. Is that for like every sport through the whole? is that
So he
annually?
does practices and he does games.
For every athletic sport though, right, I guess?
Yeah, so he does the
Just even
whole,
soccer,
whole
football,
program, yeah.
anything at home,
Yep,
okay.
yep.
And then, yeah, okay, so that contracted services for 162,000 is athletic trainer, game officials are the big tickets for
Yes.
that, yeah, okay.
police coverage
Yeah.
is $7,000 with that. Summer school, that just reflects those 4 days for kindergarten camp.
Sounds cute.
Bring a smile to your face. Page 6, I'm on page 6, so that is guidance. Again, really, you're looking at health insurance or track changes, things along that line. Again, just to draw your attention to line 209, that is our licensed mental health workers that the board has been very supportive of.
Who is that?
That is Growing Roots.
Growing Roots.
Any questions? Page 7, guidance registrar, that is again just that 4% increase. And then changes, subscriptions or increased costs for health insurance. Health services, again, reflects the addition of the third nurse and the reduction of the 2 paraeducators. Psychological services, again, that's really one FTE that is funded. The other FTE is funded through IDEA.
I'm sorry, going back to health services. Maybe I'm getting lost in the sauce. As we look at lines 239, 240, and 241, all the insurance lines, would we see as we move, as we decrement those paraeducator positions and instate the new nurse, have we accounted for the decrease, Free People's decrease in insurance costs as well? Is that already accounted for? Is that?
It would be two decrease,
Sorry, you're
one
correct.
increase.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
yes, we have.
And I think also taken into account that will be 2 unknown nurses, so probably budgeted
We
those
budgeted that, yeah.
at family plans. So we
Oh,
have,
okay.
yeah.
Is that what we do when we have unknowns? We always budget a family plan just as a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Planning
Yes.
assumption.
Makes sense.
It is.
You don't wanna under budget it.
I know.
Over budget.
Phrase it that way.
Right.
So, speech services, page 9. We are hopeful for that speech pathologists. We have maintained that in the budget. That we had to use contracted service this year, but that is one that we would rather be able to hire. We'll try again this year. I think one of the areas that is difficult is because they can go work for a contracted service that can pay them differently than a salary schedule.
I mean, that's like nursing.
I will say, I found, like, we had one potential candidate, but she wanted to negotiate, and we can't negotiate because it's part of a collective bargaining agreement. And so, they are in, is it a seller's market? Is that the way to look at that?
Yeah, there's a long-term benefit to not doing that versus like you get away your benefits,
Yeah,
everything else
yeah.
associated with it.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot to that.
Yeah.
Occupational and physical therapy, we certainly will have Lisa Holiday speak more to our physical therapy needs and things in that area.
What's CODA?
That is it's a occupational
Certified occupational
like
therapist.
assistant.
Assistant.
Yeah. Technology services. So we have Ms. Parsons here. So again, really for this one, I think the most important is line 356. We would be looking for fund balance to fully bring that up.
Mr. Parsons, is any of your team looking to retire anytime soon?
Let's hope not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to jinx anything. We have one person that would be the next
Right, and we're
candidate,
hoping
but
to
I
have a
don't
few
know
more.
exactly what their
Yeah,
plans would be.
okay.
Yeah, just curious.
We have a great team, and they do an exceptional job.
But back to your point, trying to hire people who are skilled in the technology field at a public municipality rate, it's tough to compete sometimes.
Sure.
Any questions on page 11? Page 12 is what you're going to see again is bringing up really line 385, 386 for professional learning, as well as 395 again for our mathematics upgrade.
And then I just had contracted services versus in-service, I just want to understand.
Yeah, honestly, they could kind of blend together.
Okay.
Sometimes, sometimes if I'm assigning somebody, I think the in-service is like if I assign somebody to go for a particular training, it's
Mhm.
pulled from there. But they do kind of bleed together.
Okay, and then 368, I know we did an actual, so we had a salary increase that this year will be proposed of like $10,000. It says 4796, but really we did an actual increase, voted, and then we proposed a new one. So that's just a line item that might come up in like someone was scrutinizing.
So,
That's 368, the coordinator's
Yep.
salary. Yeah.
so I think last year they had received a 4% increase, and then we're proposing a 4.
4% again.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that consistent with all the is that? yeah,
Yes, so all
okay.
administrative salaries and non-bargaining,
Yep.
we're proposing at 4%.
Jim,
And
what
again,
was the
that's-
point you were trying to make? Sorry.
No, that jumped out at me because I saw the voted number and the percentage and the proposed, and then I just didn't look and put it all together of that's what we proposed, and that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought we had given a raise for some reason at the end of this year, and then I was just thinking.
Yeah, okay.
I'm good.
Yeah.
We're giving him an extra.
Okay, school library services, page 13. What you see on line 406 is that reduction of the paraprofessional salary at ILES. The Sandwich librarian is really a paraprofessional role in Sandwich. So that's why there's additional funds in that line, as well as at the middle high. School board services. Again, you have line 441 that's related to the cost of the audit. Insurance has gone up. We also looked at advertising, looking more at what we are spending, printing, same thing.
The advertising is all position.
Yeah, so like doing things in the newspaper, things along that line.
So line
Notices.
444, negotiations. It's a $20,000 or $19,000 increase.
No,
No,
that's
that's
insurance.
insurance.
That's
Insurance.
There's nothing in negotiation.
Right, you had carried forward money last year, so.
Thank you for,
We also use the legal line for that.
yeah, I was-
Right.
I was gonna say supplies. So we, our beginning and end of year, we do, we do a celebration for our staff. So that's just the bucket it comes out of, so. And then the diligence, the school board software is that amount.
What number is that?
And then SAU has gone down a bit. Page 15, I think what's most notable in this area is contracted services, 476. So you're seeing the change for the school resource officer salary as well as the detail component from $60 an hour to $70.
Wait, sorry, which line was that?
476.
46. Thank you. And we have 2 school resource officers right now, right?
We do. Principal support, page 16, what you're seeing in that area again is the going from a school year receptionist at the middle high to a year round, as well as you're seeing really a subscription change for somebody. Auditorium, again, that's just based on what we have been paying technicians over 3-year average. Operation of plant on page 17. Again, it's really that custodian salary is adding in those 2 additional custodian positions, which are year-round positions. And propane, that's because we have shifted to propane.
And there you go too, Charlie, the pellet fuel is a good, that's a good anomaly for reducing heating oil, because Brian was saying they're using less pellets because the efficiency of the propane boilers.
So, buildings and equipment, again, we have proposed that you consider deferring for fund balance, not deferring the projects, but deferring the funding fund balance. Care Grounds is really to take care of that drainage issue, which we will get a little more detail on. Then page 19 is transportation, as outlined in the overview. Not surprising, the corresponding part about district placements is the special education transportation costs. Recognition of service, there are 2 for this budget. And retired employees, again, are down because of subscription offerings to them, to that group. And page 20 is cost to distribute. So that's the health reimbursement accounts, unemployment compensation, workers' comp. And then transfers are, there's no transfer to food service. We are proposing you do that through fund balance. We have, if you recall, we're starting to see that we need to support the food service program. You're required to have a food service program. You cannot go in the go in the red. And we're needing to subsidize that program. It's not self-sustaining. Debt services. So this is our first time in the budget. Well, it was in last year's budget, right, Ashley, when they approved the warrant?
It was not in the budget, it was a separate warrant
Yeah.
article, which then put it in the budget.
Perfect.
So, yes.
And so you have just federal funds. This is what we call like an in and out. We have to put it here so we can spend it, but it's not money you're raising. And then the total appropriation of $37,295,119, or 5.71%. Other information you have in your binder is you have a breakdown in the next section of staffing. So this is FTEs. You also have, since 2009, FTEs. So you can expand that if you'd like, and see our change of FTEs over the years. So I'm in the staffing section.
Again, it's full-time equivalent.
Yes, yeah. I'm not gonna go through all of these, but if you would like to get into like how many teachers at each grade level and so forth at each school, that's what the next pages are. So I'll skip to the capital improvement plan. So this has been updated with the, things that we would defer in the budget, but they would be ones that we would be asking for end of year fund balance. And then if you go to the very last section, budget by cost center, if you wanted to certainly dig in, you can see what Interlakes Elementary, how much of the budget is Interlakes Elementary, the middle school, high school, Sandwich Central School, district-wide. Again, that gets distributed. That might be speech pathologists are counted out at the district level, but then they're working within the schools. So even though district-wide looks like 32%, it's how some of that just gets accounted for.
Mary, it looks like some of the, like, stuff we heard for feedback around class size has been solved and all this as well, so thank you.
Yeah. So we tried to address two areas that I think would be positive: adding a nurse at Sandwich and adding, really shifting that one FTE with some offset to ILES. I think that will smooth out ILES's numbers. ILES is a more complicated population. So Sandwich would certainly have some higher class sizes, but I think when you look at the special education needs and free and reduced lunch needs, I think there's a rationale there.
So for our next meeting, we will have all the department heads here, correct?
Correct.
We have all this information, which we went through pretty rapidly tonight, but you can all go through it, bring your questions next time, certainly. And we'll have on the ground answers, in theory. And
that's again from 4 to 6 next Tuesday.
Yes,
Because-
4 o'clock. I don't know that we put an end time.
Okay, sorry, yeah.
but the only purpose of next week's meeting is budget.
Correct.
Go
Would
ahead,
it be
Jim.
beneficial for all of us, like as a ask, maybe to, I would say Duncan or Nancy or Charlie, like if we review this and then have questions, we could do it ahead of time, like send them to somebody, so we're,
Could send them to
doesn't
me.
Mary or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I was just thinking like,
I don't think we're qualified.
well, you're like
No, maybe we are.
leadership on the board here.
You can always, you can always.
But all right, let's send
Yeah.
them.
If you have questions, if you want to send them to me, we'll try to, it's helpful to have them in advance just because if there's information we need to dig, for.
Yep.
And I don't know if the board, if you had any sense of you would like further reductions or, again, we started closer to 10%, we got it down to 5.71. If there is something you are, if that would be helpful for us to prepare for the next meeting, to let us know.
I would say, given the drivers of this budget, this is an impressive response to some horrible numbers that we can't change. I'm broadly impressed with what you and your team have done.
And it's a team effort.
I would say that if there was an inclination to try to have some meaningful reduction, we're looking at programming. I mean, that's part of the deal when you have 90% of your budget is people. We've already cut things that shouldn't be kicked down the road, but they have been this year in facilities. So, and we've had those conversations not that long ago. We had a language on the table and we decided at the time that was too close to the bone. And the voters agreed with us, so. I would echo Duncan's comments, I think, to get it down to where we do. When you have 60% of your overall budget that are out of your control, it makes it challenging. So, anyway, just thoughts. Anything else?
It would be helpful if I could understand, thinking of broadly speaking, federal budget, like which of this is, how much of this is what line items are discretionary and what line items are non-discretionary. Not that I'm suggesting
Yeah.
we should cut anything, but like, hey, maybe we all think, hey, maybe we shouldn't buy left-handed smoke shifters. Well, if there's a law that says we have to buy left-handed smoke shifters, that's not up to us.
Yeah, I think that gets hard to be able to tease that all out because there's minimum standards, so that we do meet for the
Yeah.
state, we exceed, but to do the analysis of which one, like, I think it is it's tough to tease all that out. Federal, like special education were required, right? So that one that's pretty straightforward to do. But, regular education, there are certain places that are meeting minimum standards with less. But it's hard to, that comes into class size, all kinds, like it gets very complicated.
And choice.
Yeah.
Offerings
Yeah.
and choice.
Yeah.
So that's the programming piece of
Yeah.
it. Right? I keep thinking that your charter school initiative has the potential of decreasing the special ed budget. And I don't know at what point you can do an analysis or just a projection of that kind of thing.
So that, if that was successful, it would open in September of 2027. I think one of the things, we have a feasibility study that is underway that, thanks to Crotched Mountain Foundation, so they have funded a $30,000 feasibility study that is underway. I think that will help us to see, the goal is that will help narrow down the focus of the charter school. And I think then that will let us see how many students might be a better, would be a good fit there, that then we can start thinking about.
But at the very least, I mean, you're getting to a place where you can look forward to being able to control transportation costs, if nothing else. I mean, the services are expensive and the services are complicated, but the transportation costs alone, and that's such a driver of this.
But to some degree, because we can't assume that all of
No,
these
I understand,
appropriate.
but
Right.
I mean, I feel like I couched it enough. We can look forward to seeing a horizon where we could start to control. But right now, I mean, there's just no,
I think it has
So,
a possibility.
yeah, I'm sorry, we should.
Yeah.
And now I
Even if you do
apologize, but we're
hypothetically,
at 5:33,
Yeah.
and we can continue this during our regular next public session.
Yeah,
But I would entertain a motion per RSA 91A:3-2C, which includes matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of this board unless such a person requests a meeting.
I put it forward.
Thank you,
I'll second.
thank you. And Duncan, sorry, Nancy.
Because they're voting.
Roll call.
We're voting to go into non-public
Yes.
session.
Non-public.
Yes.
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 Yeah,
And finance.
thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Would it be too loud if I
Mark,
made a
we
cup
all
of
done?
tea? Like, how loud is
Yeah,
anything?
just 1 second, I have to stop recording.
I know that.